After two siblings died and left their house derelict, auctioneers made a bizarre discovery. Following the deaths of their siblings, Jack and Audrey Newton of the English Midlands, a local auction company, was enlisted to appraise and sell the siblings' possessions in compliance with their will. In 2015, the assessors experienced a surreal feeling while entering the Newtons' homestead. For more than 70 years, brother and sister Jack and Audrey have resided at Grange Farm, which is situated at the edge of the Warwickshire, England, community of Woolston-on-Dunmore. They had moved into the quaint farmhouse in the 1940s, helping their parents farm the 115 acres of land that belonged to the property and raising pigs and cattle. During World War II, the surrounding city of Coventry was nearly destroyed by German Luftwaffe bombers. Nevertheless, as we will see, the Newton family's farmhouse survived. The Newton family forewent many of the conveniences of contemporary living. Rather, they made the decision to lead a modest life centered on their property, the animals, and their charming Queen Anne-style home. The Newtons' manner of life seemed perfect in several aspects. But when Jack decided to enroll in the military to fulfill his duty during World War II, that tranquility was broken. Audrey stayed at the family home and continued to assist her parents on the farm, while Harry was overseas, serving in the Royal Air Force. She also began to enjoy the arts and music. Audrey connected with Coventry Belgrade Theatre as a result of her curiosity for culture, which drove her to travel outside of Woolston-on-Dunmore and into the city. Grange Farm consequently housed a number of actors throughout the years. The English singer and actor Michael Crawford, who rose to fame and wealth on Broadway as the Phantom of the Opera star, was the most well-known thespian to pass through the door. Having served his nation and king during the war, Jack went back to Grange Farm. The elder Newtons died as the years went by, but the loving siblings carried on with their simple existence. They both never got married, rejected partners and kids, and seem to have rejected nearly every contemporary invention. Their preference seems to be for the house as it had been when they moved in. Although Jack and Audrey sold the farm's livestock, they carried on with their custom of tilling the ground. Audrey unfortunately passed away in 2011 at the age of 80. Jack passed away in March 2015, 4 years later, at the age of 99. So Grange Farm was empty for the first time since the 1940s. The Newtons had no near relatives who may have inherited the land. The details of Jack and Audrey's will were kept private, but in an attempt to reach a settlement with the beneficiaries, the executors were going to take a drastic step. This is where things got interesting. The executors of the estate decided to sell Grange Farm and hold an auction of its goods. Hopkins and Harrison, two nearby real estate brokers, intervened to arrange the sale of the land and everything on it. The experts didn't really know what they were getting themselves into, though. As the auction valuers from Hopkins and Harrison discovered upon entering Grange Farm, it truly seemed like they had stepped into a time warp. Upon initial observation, it appeared as though the family had not made any changes to the house since moving in 70 years prior. Every detail, including fixtures and furniture, as well as decorations and commonplace objects, seemed to provide a fascinating window into 1940s family life. Moreover, a large number of the Newtons' previous belongings were considerably older, and the spacious 9-bedroom home was filled with antiques of all types. There were strictly useful things and ornamental ones in the dwelling. In fact, the Newtons had accumulated possessions that they continue to use until the very end, such as an antique sewing machine, wrought iron bed frames, a typewriter, and a traditional larder in lieu of a contemporary refrigerator. Other things showcased the brothers' interests and passions. A variety of antique instruments, albums, and sheet music, some from the 1920s, were among the astounding relics. The auction company also discovered vintage binoculars and film cameras. A wartime amputation kit was among the stranger items within. Patrick was shocked at Grange Farm and everything in it. Patrick assisted in planning the auction for the executors of the Newtons' will. He stated to the Coventry Telegraph newspaper in 2015 that the house contents have not been touched since their late parents' time. It's a time warp of interesting ideas, curiosities, and even warm memorabilia, said a captivated Patrick. Still, he thought of Grange Farm's previous owners. The Newtons had an exciting existence, despite never getting married. It's really the end of a bygone era, he stated. Furthermore, Shane Morris, the Newtons' neighbor, talked with the Daily Mail, a UK tabloid, when one of its reporters visited Woolston-on-Dunmore to confirm the story. The siblings, according to Morris, belonged to the make-do and men generation. Jack and Audrey had endured the hardships of World War II, grown up during the Depression, and then gone through the austerity of the post-war years. It seemed like all of this had worn off. It's an elderly person's home, yet they never threw anything out, Morris said. They were incredibly careful folks who maintained everything, even before recycling became a thing. Jack was a master of all trades who served in the RAF during the war. He accomplished a great deal. They continued to cultivate the property even though they sold their pigs and cattle as they grew older. Hopkins and Harrison hosted an open house before the big sale of Grange Farm's belongings. This made it possible for the general public to examine the auction pieces in advance and learn more about the lifestyle of the Newtons. An official from the company said that flinging the doors open was really well liked. It seems that interested tourists came from all around to marvel at the museum exhibits. In June 2015, an auction was conducted at Grange Farm to sell the belongings of the Newton family. The event drew hundreds of attendees because of the historical and antique significance and worth of some of the lots. Undoubtedly, a lot of people there were hoping to get their hands on a piece of history. Morris, a resident of Woolston-on-Dunmore, was one of their number, hoping to obtain a memento to cherish the Newtons. Despite their intense privacy, they showed their friends a great deal of kindness and concern. They remained loyal to you. For my wife and I, they were like parents, and we may bid on a few things to retain as keepsakes, Morris remarked. At the end of the auction, every one of the 500 items was quickly purchased. A gold pocket watch that sold for an astounding £600 or $840 was one of the goods. After supervising the sale of the Newtons' lifelong belongings, Shea Barron of Hopkins and Harrison told the Coventry Telegraph, "It was a really good day with a great crowd." The Grange Farm was put up for sale at a price close to $900,000. Even though Jack and Audrey are no longer with us and have no descendants, their legacy endures because to the numerous auction bidders. The recipients of those intriguing artifacts had to have praised the Newtons in silence for their amazing historical preservation.